Of course, it's the big story in town, and for more on the Chief Justice interviews, let's take you back live now to Senton, where our colleague Hasina Gori is following the story from. Hasina, Judge Maya making no apologies about her reasons for taking this interview.
Good morning, Desiree. It is just the beginning of what's expected to be quite a long day of interviews here. Yesterday, we saw Concourt Judge Madlanga being here till quite late in the early evening, so we're expecting a similar. This morning, it began with the SCA President Mandisa Maya speaking on her qualifications, awards that she's been received, as well as a judicial experience, before being asked on her vision. If she was elected as a Chief Justice, what would the Concourt look like? Before she began her 30 minutes, she asked for the panel's indulgence to first talk on what promises she had made when she was appointed a Supreme Court of Appeal in 2017, the last time she was here at the JSC interviews. Some of these undertakings that she took, and what she was explaining is the transformation that she had managed to do during her time as SCA President, bringing the number of female and male judges to 12 and 11 currently, as well as talking on a transformation that she has done. She also spoke on what led to her penning the first judgment in isiXhosa, talking about keeping the cultural heritage of the country. Then she went on to speak on her vision for the Constitutional Court, as well as for the judiciary as a whole, because as we know, the Chief Justice is someone who not only is a judge and functions as the most senior judge of the Constitutional Court, but also the head of the judiciary, basically the final authority on the maintenance and the execution of all the courts in the country. She spoke on a single judiciary. She spoke on the moving to digitization, modernization, but also taking into cognizance the kind of issues that are socioeconomic as well as modernization issues that the country faces as well. We also heard from her speaking on her own integrity, her hard work, and basically saying that, you know, why she feels she has the qualities that are needed for the next Chief Justice. She is the only female candidate and that is being interviewed for this position. There are 4 candidates, and this is day 2 of the proceedings. We also know this is the first time a female is being interviewed for this interview. We are currently on a comfort break at the moment, waiting for proceedings to continue once again. We know from yesterday it began with first the vision being asked of each candidate. They explained, they got a chance to really elaborate on their vision, on what they would really bring in if they were elected, and what a perfect constitutional court would be like. And then they usually, after this process, they open up the panel and the floor for the commissioners to ask questions, as well as for them to respond to things that they might bring up during this time as well. We know we're meant to be back to the interviews in a little bit, but I'm told that we are going to be joined by a guest in a little bit. In a moment, we are going to be speaking with the Judicial Service Commission, Advocate Dalim Pofu, in a little bit. He's going to be responding to some of the criticism. Earlier this morning, we spoke with Judge Hrikler, retired Judge Hrikler from Freedom Under Law, and he spoke regarding his concerns that he has on some of the commissioners. We know that there are 22 commissioners usually. Today there's 21, as the Chief Justice position is not being elected yet. It's what we're interviewing for today. So basically what happens is that this panel is made up of top jurists. It's made up of members of parliament, as well as also concerned parties. So the Freedom Under Law has really raised some concerns over two of those commissioners, that is Advocate Dale Mpofu as well as EFF leader Julius Malema, saying that their own personal conduct and their own personal ethics makes them not the most suitable to now judge others' ethics, because they explained in that interview in Morning Live this morning that that the function of the JSC is to judge the ethics of the next jurors, and if their own personal conduct is brought under disrepute or is being questioned and there's clouds of judgment on that they should not be judging other people. So while we wait for the advocate, let's go through what's expected to take place today and what we saw. So as we know, this is day 2. We've had the first candidate, which was the Constitutional Court Judge Mbuyisile Madlanga. Then now it is the SCA President Mandisa Maya, as well as the other 2 candidates which will be interviewed over the next 2 days. I see that the advocate is here, so we are going to bring him in. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We spoke yesterday, ahead of the proceedings beginning. We've heard from civic organization Freedom Under Law calling into question some of the commissioners. You're one of those that are named. What's the response from the JSC as a whole? I know you speak on behalf of the JSC as a spokesperson with regards to these complaints being brought out against 2 of the commissioners.
Well, obviously, I cannot comment on that, being one of the people who have been targeted. I suppose the JSC, if it deems fit, will call a meeting and discuss the issue. Should it feel that it should do so, because it is now in the public domain.
Let's just go one step back and explain to the viewers what is the purpose of the Judicial Service Commission and how is it brought about? How do you become a member? And let's talk through that.
Yes, no, that's very important. I think also for the sake of educating the public, because there's a whole lot of misinformation out there. The JSC is constituted in terms of the Constitution, which is also augmented by the JSC Act. And the Constitution prescribes in detail who should be in the JSC. As I said to you yesterday, it is made up such that a portion of it is made up of politicians, public representatives, and then the other side are people who are representing civil society organizations or broadly non-political organizations. Those are professional bodies. The attorney's profession is represented specifically, the advocate's profession represented specifically, academics, and then you have, of course, persons like the Minister of Justice, who sits there by that virtue of being a minister, and then you have heads of courts. In other words, the judge presidents of all the divisions nominate one of their number to sit to represent them. Then the president of the SCA also sits as a permanent member, and of course is chaired by the Chief Justice. When certain functions of the JSC are being performed, for example, you know the recent Hlophe matter, which might at the end up in an impeachment. The JSC sits as what we call the small JSC. That means that portion of the JSC, ourselves, without the politicians, without the members of parliament. Why is that so? Because should the matter end up in the National Assembly, those persons must not have sat in the judgment of the previous matter, and therefore they are automatically recused, to put it colloquially. So that's how the thing is structured. And it works on a vote. Nobody has a casting vote. The Chief Justice, although he or she is the chair of the JSC, he also has a vote like all other commissioners. So first and foremost, when they sit here, they are commissioners. The minister, when he sits here, is not a minister as such. He's a commissioner. The Speaker of Parliament, she's a commissioner. The Chief Justice is a commissioner, and all of us are commissioners. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was Advocate Dali Mpofu speaking to us here as the JSC spokesperson, explaining to us the processes that lead to someone being part of the JSC. This comes in the background of that complaints coming from civic organization Freedom Under Law, which really called out whether or not EFF leader Julius Malema as well as Advocate Dali Mpofu should be sitting during these proceedings and being part of the interview panel. As you heard from the advocate here, that right now they cannot comment as he's one of those that are being named in this process, and if the JSC feels it fit to respond, they will. So right now this is what we've heard so far regarding that issue. We are soon to begin once again with the proceedings with SCA President Manisa Maya returning to that hot seat and now being questioned by the commissioners. Back to you in studio, Desiree.